The fork stopped halfway to my mother's mouth. I had just asked her for help starting my catering business. Not a lot. Just $5,000 to rent proper equipment and cover my first 3 months of supplies. The dining room went silent. My father stopped chewing. My brother Mark looked up from his phone, a slow smile spreading across his face. Then my mother laughed. Not a polite chuckle. A real, sharp laugh that cut through the air like glass breaking. "A catering business?" she said, setting down her fork. "Sweetheart, that's a hobby for women who failed at real careers. You want me to throw money at folding tables and plastic forks?" My throat tightened. I had practiced this conversation for weeks. I had spreadsheets, client projections, everything. But none of it mattered now. She leaned back in her chair, her eyes scanning me like I was a bad investment. "I'm putting everything into Mark's marketing firm. He has real potential. You've always needed rescuing, and I'm tired of it." I stood up. My hands were shaking. I didn't trust myself to speak, so I just walked toward the door. Behind me, Mark's voice followed, calm and smug. "Don't make this awkward. You knew this wasn't for you." I made it to the hallway before the tears started. I pressed my back against the wall, trying to breathe. My chest felt like someone had reached inside and squeezed. I heard footsteps. Mark appeared, hands in his pockets, that same practiced smile on his face. "Hey," he said softly, like he was talking to a child. "Don't take it personally. Mom just knows how business works. She needs winners, not risks." I stared at him. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even gloating. He was explaining like this was a lesson I should have learned years ago. "You've always been emotional," he continued. "That's fine for some people, but Mom invests in results. If you were more impressive, maybe she'd see it differently." The words hit me harder than the rejection at dinner. This wasn't spontaneous cruelty. This was rehearsed. They had talked about me before tonight. They had decided, together, that I wasn't worth the risk. "I'm just trying to help," Mark added. "You'll thank me later." He walked back toward the dining room, and I stood there alone, the walls closing in. "My name is Vanessa Torres. I'm 28 years old, from Phoenix, Arizona. If you're listening to this story, please subscribe to this channel for more real stories like mine. You won't regret it." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the dinner in my mind. The laughter. The dismissal. The way my father said nothing, just looked down at his plate like I wasn't even there. This wasn't new. It was just the loudest version of something that had been happening my whole life. When I graduated college, my mother missed the ceremony because Mark had a pitch meeting. When I got engaged, she spent the whole dinner talking about Mark's promotion. When my engagement fell apart, she told me I should have tried harder. I was always the backup plan, the one who could wait. Mark was the star, the one worth celebrating. And I had accepted it. I had told myself it didn't matter, that I didn't need her approval. But asking for help with my business had felt different. It felt like proof that I mattered. And she had laughed. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was my mother. "Can you do me a small favor?" The favor was helping Mark organize his pitch documents. For free, of course. My mother didn't ask if I had time. She just assumed I would say yes. And I did. I always did. I drove to Mark's apartment the next morning. He was still in pajamas when he opened the door, holding a coffee mug. "You're early," he said, waving me inside. His apartment was a mess. Papers scattered across the table, half-empty takeout containers on the counter. I sat down and started sorting through the documents. Mark had missed deadlines, forgotten to update financials, and left client emails unanswered for days. This was the business my mother believed in. This chaos. This carelessness. "Thanks for doing this," Mark said, scrolling through his phone. "Mom said you'd help." I didn't respond. I just kept working, filing documents, fixing errors, rewriting sections that made no sense. After 2 hours, I finished. Mark barely looked up. "You're a lifesaver," he said. I walked to my car and sat there for a long time, staring at the steering wheel. Something inside me shifted. They still saw me as useful, just not worthy. I started my catering business anyway. Not with $5,000. With 300. I bought used pans from a thrift store, borrowed folding tables from a friend, and printed business cards at the library. My first client was a church potluck. They paid me $75. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I didn't tell my family. I didn't post about it online. I just worked. I woke up at 5 in the morning to prep ingredients. I delivered food in my old sedan, the back seat filled with trays wrapped in foil. I came home exhausted, my feet aching, my hands smelling like garlic and onions. But I felt something I hadn't felt in years.
Pride.
One afternoon, I catered a small birthday party at a community center. A woman approached me as I was packing up. She wore a blazer and had kind eyes. "This was incredible," she said. "Do you have a card?" I handed her one, trying not to seem too eager. "I'm the coordinator for the school district," she said. "We're looking for someone to cater our teacher appreciation events. Can we schedule a meeting?" The meeting happened 2 weeks later. I sat across from the coordinator, my hands folded on the table, trying to hide how nervous I was. She asked about my experience, my menu options, my pricing. I had prepared for this. I had practiced every answer. When I finished, she smiled. "You're hired. We'll start with monthly events and see how it goes." I signed the contract in my car, my hands shaking. It wasn't a fortune. It was steady work, reliable income, enough to keep going. For the first time, I felt like this might actually work. That same week, I got a text from my mother. "Mark's business hit a snag. Can you come over?" I didn't respond right away. I just stared at the message, feeling the old pull, the old obligation. But this time, I hesitated. I thought about the way Mark had smirked at me during dinner, the way my mother had laughed, the way they assumed I would always be there to fix things. I put my phone down and went back to work. My mother called 3 times before I finally answered. Her voice was frantic, higher than usual. "Vanessa, I need you to listen. Mark's investor pulled out. He needs more capital to stay afloat." She paused, waiting for me to say something. When I didn't, she continued. "I'm asking the family to contribute. You need to help." I gripped the phone tighter. "I can't," I said. "I'm building my own business." "Your catering thing?" She said it like it was a joke. "Vanessa, that's not the same. Mark has real overhead, real employees. This is serious." I felt my stomach twist. "So, is what I'm doing." There was silence on the other end. Then her voice turned cold. "Don't get ideas about independence. Family comes first. Or have you forgotten that?" She hung up before I could respond. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall. She hadn't asked how my business was going. She hadn't asked if I was okay. She just wanted me to fall in line like always. But something had changed. I wasn't falling anymore. I saw Mark 2 weeks later at a family barbecue. He looked tired, his confidence cracked at the edges. He was on his phone the entire time, pacing near the fence, arguing with someone. I overheard pieces of the conversation. Missed payments, angry clients, broken promises. My mother hovered near him, refilling his drink, offering reassurance. "It's just a rough patch," she told him. "Every business goes through this." But I knew better. I had seen his documents. I had watched him ignore deadlines, dismiss feedback, blame everyone but himself. This wasn't bad luck. This was consequence. Later, my mother pulled me aside. "You need to talk to Mark. He's under a lot of stress." I looked at her, waiting for her to acknowledge me, my work, anything. She didn't. "I'm sure he'll figure it out," I said. Her eyes narrowed. "That's all you have to say?" I didn't answer. I just walked away. That night, I received an email. It was an invitation to bid on a catering contract for a corporate gala. The company was one my mother admired, a name she dropped constantly. I stared at the email for a long time. Then I started preparing my proposal. The proposal took me 3 days to complete. I researched every detail, designed a custom menu, calculated costs down to the cent. I wanted this contract more than I had wanted anything in a long time. Not just because of the money, because of what it represented. I was capable. I was professional. I was worth investing in. I submitted the proposal and tried not to think about it. But every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped. 2 weeks later, I got the call. Miss Torres, we'd like to move forward with your bid. You're one of 3 finalists. We'll need you to present in person next week. I hung up and sat in my kitchen, staring at nothing. This was real. This was happening. A few days later, my mother called again. She was excited, her voice light and bubbly. Vanessa, guess what? Your father and I are attending the Hartman Corporation Gala next month. It's going to be incredible. They always have the best food. I froze. Hartman Corporation. That was the gala I was bidding on. That's great, I said carefully. She kept talking, listing the people who would be there, the networking opportunities. I said nothing. I just let her talk, my mind racing. The presentation went better than I expected. I walked into the conference room, set up my samples, and spoke clearly, confidently. The executives asked questions. I answered them. When I finished, the head coordinator smiled. We'll be in touch soon. I left the building feeling lighter than I had in months. A week later, I got the email. Congratulations, Miss Torres. We're excited to work with you. I read it 3 times to make sure it was real. Then I closed my laptop and cried. Not from sadness. From relief. From pride. From the overwhelming feeling that I had done this. Me. Not my mother's money. Not my brother's connections. Just me. I didn't tell my family. Not yet. This was mine and I wanted to keep it that way for a little longer. But 2 days later, everything started falling apart for Mark. A client posted a scathing review online. Then another. Then another. His business was unraveling in real time, and there was nothing my mother could do to stop it. My mother started calling me every other day. She never asked how I was doing.
She just talked about Mark.
He's going through a tough time, she said. He needs family support right now. I listened, saying little. I knew what was coming. Vanessa, I need you to help smooth things over. Maybe reach out to some of your contacts, see if anyone needs marketing services. I almost laughed. My contacts. The ones I had built without her help. The ones she had dismissed as unimportant. I don't think that's a good idea, I said. Why not? Her voice sharpened. Because you're holding a grudge? No, I said calmly. Because I'm running my own business. I don't have time. She hung up without saying goodbye. A few days later, my father called. He was gentler, more careful. Your mother is worried about Mark. She thinks you could help if you wanted to. I sighed. Dad, I can't fix this for him. I know, he said quietly. But maybe just talk to him? I agreed, even though I knew it wouldn't change anything. But before I could call Mark, my mother sent a group text. Family meeting. Tomorrow. 6 p.m. No excuses. The meeting was exactly what I expected. My mother sat at the head of the table, my father beside her, Mark across from me. My mother started talking immediately, her voice controlled but tense. We're here because this family needs to come together. Mark is facing challenges, and we all need to step up. She looked directly at me. Vanessa, you've always had a good work ethic. I've always admired that about you. I blinked. She had never said that before. I think, she continued, that you could help Mark restructure his client base. You have skills he could use. I stared at her, waiting for the real ask. I'm also wondering where your recent income is coming from. You seem to be doing well. I felt my pulse quicken. I'm catering, I said simply. For who? Different clients. Events. Corporate contracts. Her eyes narrowed. Corporate? Like what? I didn't answer. Mark shifted in his seat, uncomfortable. My mother's tone changed. Vanessa, if you're making good money, you should help your brother. That's what family does. I set my hands on the table, forcing myself to stay calm. I'm not giving Mark money. The room went silent. My mother's face went white, then red. Excuse me? I said no. I kept my voice steady, even though my heart was pounding. I've worked hard to build my business. I'm not using it to bail him out. Bail him out. She leaned forward. He's your brother. He's struggling. How can you be so selfish? Mark didn't say anything. He just stared at his hands. I'm not being selfish, I said. I'm setting a boundary. A boundary? My mother's laugh was bitter. You sound like one of those self-help podcasts. This is family, Vanessa. You don't get to have boundaries. I stood up. Yes, I do. Her voice rose. You're betraying this family. After everything we've done for you. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized something. She didn't see me. She never had. What have you done for me? I asked quietly. She didn't answer. I grabbed my keys and left. Behind me, I heard Mark finally speak. She's always been selfish. I told you. I didn't look back. The Hartman Gala was 3 weeks away. I threw myself into the preparation, perfecting every detail. I hired 2 assistants, rented a commercial kitchen, tested recipes until they were flawless. I didn't think about my family. I didn't check my phone. I just worked. The night of the gala, I arrived early, setting up in the back kitchen. The event space was stunning, chandeliers, white linen, live music. I watched through the service doors as guests began to arrive. And then I saw them. My mother and father, dressed in formal attire, smiling as they greeted people. My mother looked radiant, confident, like she belonged. I felt my stomach drop. I hadn't told her.
She didn't know.
The coordinator approached me, clipboard in hand. Miss Torres, are we ready? I nodded, pushing down the panic. We're ready. The first course went out perfectly. Then the second. I watched the servers move through the crowd, trays balanced, everything smooth. And then, during dessert, the host took the microphone. Before we close, I want to thank our incredible caterer, Vanessa Torres, for making this evening unforgettable. I froze. The room applauded. My mother's head turned toward the kitchen, her eyes searching. And then she saw me. I stepped out from behind the service door, still wearing my chef's coat. The applause continued, but all I could see was my mother's face.
Shock.
Confusion. Then something else. Realization. People approached me, shaking my hand, complimenting the food. I smiled, thanked them, tried to stay professional. But I felt my mother's eyes on me the entire time. When the crowd thinned, she walked over. My father trailed behind her, looking uncomfortable. Vanessa, she said, her voice tight. You did this. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? I looked at her, this woman who had spent my whole life dismissing me. Would it have mattered? She opened her mouth, then closed it. People were watching. She forced a smile, leaning closer. We need to talk. Privately. I nodded. We stepped into a quiet hallway, away from the noise. My father stood a few feet away, arms crossed. I don't understand, my mother said. When did this happen? How did you even get this contract? I applied, I said simply. Like anyone else. Her expression shifted. This is incredible, Vanessa. I always knew you had it in you. I almost laughed. You laughed at me. I didn't, you did. You called it a hobby. My mother's face softened, her voice dropping into something that almost sounded like emotion. I was just being realistic. I didn't want you to get hurt. You wanted me to stay small, I said. She shook her head. That's not fair. I've always wanted what's best for you. Then why didn't you help me? She hesitated. Because Mark needed it more. The honesty was worse than the lie. At least the lie would have meant she cared enough to pretend. Vanessa, she said, her tone shifting again. I know things have been hard between us. But this, what you've done here, it's amazing. And I think we can use it. Use it? She nodded. Mark's business is struggling. But if people see that you're successful, that the family has entrepreneurial talent, it reflects well on all of us. Maybe you could even partner with him. Combine resources. I stared at her, stunned. She hadn't come here to apologize. She had come here to control the narrative. I'm not partnering with Mark, I said. Her face hardened. You're being stubborn. I'm being smart. She opened her mouth to argue, but I cut her off. I need to get back to work. I walked away, leaving her standing in that hallway. The weeks after the gala were a blur. I landed 2 more corporate contracts. Then 3. Word spread. My calendar filled up. I hired a small team, rented a permanent kitchen space, and started planning 6 months ahead. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was building something real, something lasting. My mother called twice. I didn't answer. Mark texted once. Congrats on the success. We should talk. I deleted it. My father showed up at my kitchen one afternoon. He stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets, looking older than I remembered. Can I come in? I nodded, wiping my hands on my apron. We sat at a small table near the window. He didn't say anything for a long time. Your mother is proud of you, he finally said. She just doesn't know how to say it. I looked at him. She had plenty of chances. He nodded slowly. I know. Why didn't you ever stand up for me? The question came out quieter than I intended. He looked down. I don't know. I told myself it wasn't my place. That you two would work it out. But we didn't. No, he said. You didn't. We sat in silence for a while. Then he stood. I'm glad you're doing well, Vanessa. Really? He left, and I went back to work. 3 months later, I got the call. My mother's voice was different. Smaller. Vanessa, I need to ask you something. I waited. Mark's business is closing. He can't keep it going. And your father and we've been covering his debts. But we can't anymore. I didn't say anything. We need help. Financially. There it was. The ask I had been waiting for. How much? I asked. 50,000. I closed my eyes. That was more than I had made in my entire first year. I can't do that, I said. Vanessa, please. We're family. You keep saying that, I said. But you only mean it when you need something. That's not true. It is.
You didn't believe in me.
You laughed at me. You told me I wasn't worth the risk. And now you want me to risk everything I've built to save Mark. She was silent. Why was Mark worth believing in, but I wasn't? I asked. She didn't answer. The silence stretched, long and heavy. I have to go, I said. I hung up before she could respond. 2 weeks later, Mark posted a long statement on social media. It was full of buzzwords and blame, talking about market conditions, bad luck, unforeseen challenges. He didn't mention the missed deadlines, the ignored clients, the careless mistakes. He didn't mention that my mother had funded him for years while I built my business with $300. People commented with sympathy. I didn't. I just kept working. One afternoon, I got a message from an old college friend. Saw your brother's post. That's rough. But I also saw your catering company is blowing up. Good for you. It was the first time someone had separated me from my family. The first time my success wasn't tied to theirs. It felt strange. And freeing. That night, my mother called again. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Vanessa, she said, her voice breaking.
Please.
I'm begging you. We're going to lose the house. Your father's health is declining. Mark can't find work. I don't know what to do. I felt a pang of sympathy. But I also felt something else.
Clarity.
Mom, I said gently. I hope you figure it out. I really do. But I can't save you. You won't save us, she corrected. I can't. And I won't. There's a difference. She hung up. I didn't hear from my mother for 2 months. Then I got a call from my father. She's not doing well, he said. She feels like she failed. She did fail, I said. But not the way she thinks.
He sighed.
I know you're angry. I'm not angry anymore, I said. I'm just done. Done. With trying to earn something I was never going to get. With shrinking myself so Mark could shine. With pretending it didn't hurt. My father was quiet. I understand. Do you? I think so. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry. It was the first time he had ever said that. It didn't fix anything, but it mattered. I thanked him and hung up. A week later, I got an email from a national magazine. They wanted to feature my business in their entrepreneur spotlight. I read the email 3 times, my hands shaking. This was it. This was the validation I had worked for. Not from my mother. From the world. I accepted the interview. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel the need to tell my family about it. The article came out 2 months later. The headline read, "From folding tables to corporate galas, how Vanessa Torres built a catering empire." My phone exploded. Messages from clients, friends, people I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone was proud. Everyone was excited. Except my family. My mother sent one text. "I saw the article. You didn't mention us." I didn't respond. Mark posted something vague on social media about family loyalty. I ignored it. The attention from the article brought more clients. I expanded my team, upgraded my equipment, and started planning a second location. My business wasn't just surviving. It was thriving. One evening, I was closing up the kitchen when my mother showed up. She stood in the doorway, looking smaller than I remembered. "Can we talk?" she asked. I hesitated, then nodded. We sat in the same spot where my father had sat months ago. "I read the article," she said. "It was beautiful." "Thank you." "I'm sorry, Vanessa. For everything. For not believing in you. For making you feel like you didn't matter. For choosing Mark over you." I looked at her, this woman who had shaped so much of my pain. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I was wrong. And I need you to know that." I nodded slowly. "Okay. Can you forgive me?" I thought about it. Maybe. Someday. But not today. My mother didn't argue. She just nodded, tears in her eyes, and left. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired. But I also felt something else.
Peace.
My business continued to grow. I hired a manager, trained a sous chef, and started offering cooking classes on weekends. I wasn't just running a catering company anymore. I was building a brand. One afternoon, I got a call from a producer. They wanted to feature me on a cooking show. Not as a contestant, as a guest expert. I accepted. The day of the taping, I stood in front of the cameras, talking about my journey, my food, my philosophy. I felt confident.
Calm.
Like I belonged. When the episode aired, my phone buzzed with messages.
Friends. Clients.
Strangers. Everyone was proud. My father sent a text. "You're incredible. I hope you know that." I smiled. My mother didn't reach out. And I realized I was okay with that. She had spent years making me feel like I needed her approval. But I didn't. I never had. I just needed to believe in myself. And finally I did. A year later, my mother reached out again. This time, it was different. She didn't ask for money. She didn't ask for help. She just asked if we could have coffee. I agreed. We met at a small cafe downtown. She looked older, worn down by time and stress. But there was something softer in her eyes. "How have you been?" she asked. "Good," I said. "Busy, but good. I've been following your business online. You're doing incredible things." "Thank you." We sat in silence for a moment. Then she said, "I know I can't undo the past. I know I hurt you. But I want you to know that I see you now. Really see you. And I'm proud." I nodded, my throat tight. "I appreciate that. I don't expect us to be close again," she said. "But I hope we can be something. Someday." "Maybe," I said. And I meant it. Not because I owed her anything, but because I had finally reached a place where her opinion didn't define me. We talked for an hour. It wasn't easy. It wasn't perfect. But it was a start. When we left, she hugged me. I hugged her back. Not because everything was fixed, but because I had learned that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means moving forward. 2 years after that dinner, where my mother laughed at my dream, I stood on a stage accepting an award for small business excellence. The room was filled with people who believed in me, people who had supported me, people who had seen my worth when my own family couldn't. I thought about the girl who had walked out of that dining room, shaking and humiliated. I thought about the sleepless nights, the borrowed equipment, the fear that I wasn't enough. I thought about the moment I decided to stop waiting for permission. As I held the award, I realized something. Revenge wasn't about destroying anyone. It wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right. My mother had refused to support my business. But I didn't need her to. I had supported myself. And that was the only validation that ever mattered. I looked out at the crowd, smiling. This was mine. Every bit of it. And no one could take it away. Not my mother. Not Mark. Not anyone. Because I had learned the most important lesson of all. You don't need people to believe in you. You just need to believe in yourself. And once you do, nothing can stop you. My business is still growing. I've opened 3 locations now, hired over 20 people, and catered events across the state. I've been featured in magazines, podcasts, and television shows. But the thing I'm most proud of isn't the success. It's the peace. I no longer wake up feeling like I have something to prove. I no longer check my phone hoping my mother will finally see me. I no longer shrink myself to make room for others. I've built a life that's entirely mine. And it's beautiful. My relationship with my family is complicated. My mother and I talk occasionally. It's surface level, polite, but it's something. Mark and I haven't spoken in over a year. I don't hold anger toward him anymore. I just don't have space for people who only see me as useful, not worthy. My father checks in every few months. We have coffee. We talk about safe things. It's not perfect, but it's honest. And that's enough. People ask me if I regret how things turned out. I don't. Because every rejection, every dismissal, every moment of doubt pushed me to become the person I am now.
Strong.
Independent. Unshakable. She refused to support my business. I refused to stay small. And that was the only ending that mattered.